My name is Muriel Vega, and I'm interviewing Peter Chang for We Love Buford Highway Oral History Project. The date is May 4th, and the interview is taking place at Globe Hub.
My name is Peter Chang. My family immigrated to California in 1979, and I lived in California for about 5 years. And then there was an opportunity for my company to relocate me over to Atlanta. I thought about it, discussed with my family, and then we decided to take that relocation opportunity, which turned out to be great for me and my family. I'm in the real estate business. The focus of real estate is mainly in multifamily or apartment, as some people call it. So I moved over to Metro Atlanta in 1984. And my first project was actually distribution center or industrial in Southeast DeKalb. And that project lasted for a few years. And then after that, I went on to a retail development on Ponce across the street from the Ponce Market now, but that was like 1986 or 87. My company was slightly ahead of the curve at that time, you know. And then I went on into other opportunities in hotel in Midtown.
How do you remember that area looking at the time? I'm sure it looks very different from now.
Yeah, Midtown back in the 80s still have a little bit of the remnants of the hippie years, the flower girls and there were a lot of street people. Uh, but in the middle to late 1980s, Midtown was beginning to change. I think the big change was the IBM Tower. And when that was built, it transformed and pushes a lot of new development in that area. Everybody wanted to follow IBM at that time. Colony Square had its challenges because it was an older building, but then they renovated. And some other new developments also came in Midtown, so that helped the push for redevelopment. Um, I was very lucky in the sense that people who live in Atlanta for a long time would know that in the 80s and 90s and even the early 2000, Atlanta underwent a tremendous development. And I was able to harvest the success of real estate development and investment. Um, I remember in 1996, Atlanta hosted the Olympics. That was a big deal, you know, and that actually put Atlanta on the world map. And right after the Olympics, I noticed that Atlanta became more and more international. And I met and make friends with a lot of international people who came in to invest or relocated with their company, set up offices in Atlanta and so forth. So that was my first 10, 20 years in Atlanta was a very good experience.
How did you make it over here to start investing in this area?
Um, when I first got into Atlanta, I worked with a local partner, and his name was Lou Robinson, and he worked out of his home office in at the Perimeter Center area. So within quite close proximity is Buford Highway, as you know. So I was recommended to go to Buford Highway and check out a lot of exotic and ethnic food and cuisines, and that was very good experience for me. Not just the food, but also the culture. Different languages was spoken there, and it's very very diverse.
And so right now you own Chinatown Mall, correct?
Right.
How did that come about? Like for you to have a business in Buford Highway? Like what attracted you about the area?
Right. As I said before, my company's main business is actually multifamily apartments. And in the very beginning, we started investing with Julian LaCroix and Company back in the, I think, 1990. Okay. And apartment is mainstream business. Okay. And Julian LaCroix and Company was a very good business partner. And we got in the business at the right time. And then came the 1991, 1992 SNL crisis. Uh, and that was also what we call a crisis opportunity because there was a lot of bank foreclosures. The savings and loan institutions and banks were in trouble. So they were forced to sell a lot of their loans, well below their loan value. And that created an opportunity for people who have cash back then to buy, make some very good buys from the bank and then own the properties. I remember that I traveled with Julian to Texas and some other different states to talk to the lenders, talk to the banks, and buy some of the properties from them. Those were great buys.
And so tell me a little bit more about the community because there's not a lot of particular malls around this area. So tell me about the community that's in the mall
Right.
and all the small business owners, which is such a big thing in Buford Highway.
Right.
Like, what does that look like? How do they work together? How do you
Right.
come into that community?
Right. Okay. Let me go back, step back, and say something about the history of Chinatown Mall. Back in 1987, there was a gentleman here called Peter Wu. He and his partner, Professor Francis Lai, saw the growth of the Asian population, and therefore he had this vision that there's need to have a Chinatown. And if you look around in the US, all major cities, there is always a Chinatown, and they all are doing very well. So he raised some money, most of them are from Taiwan, and then he started building this Chinatown Mall in Chambly. And in August 28, 1988, he completed the building of the Chinatown Mall, and it was a very successful project. There were many anchor tenants such as the Oriental Seafood Restaurant, a food court, supermarket, and also back then there was a Summit Bank, which is a Chinese bank. So these were the anchors, and it was doing very well. I remember that back then, because in the southeastern United States there was no Chinatown Mall, so on the weekends, and especially on the long weekend, you see people coming in from Florida, from Tennessee, from Alabama, and North and South Carolina. So it was very exciting. People came in, the whole family, spent a few days here in China, in Atlanta, and spent a lot of time, of course, in Chinatown, and bought their groceries. Okay. Enjoy the food there, and happy going back home with a carload of groceries.
And what did the area look like at that time? Like, did it look different than now? How has it changed?
Um, well, Chinatown Mall was finished in 1988. I think for the next 10 years there was not much development in city of Chambly. So I didn't see much changes in that sense. But Beaufort Highway was always quite active, and obviously today Chambly is quite different. A lot of things happened actually in the last 2 or 3 years, as you know, and lots of apartments with retail on the first floor. Now Whole Food is in Chambly. I mean, 10 years ago, you would not imagine that would happen. But today, not only Whole Food is in Chambly, it's doing extremely well. I was told that being in the real estate business, I was told that the shopping center was just completed, I think, less than a year ago, and anchored by Whole Food. Obviously, Amazon bought Whole Food. That shopping center was sold for more than $600 a square foot. Relatively speaking, I think you know about Avalon up in Alpharetta, which is also very upscale and successful retail mixed-use development was sold, I think, about 2 years ago for $500 a square foot. So this one here in Chambly sold for $600 a square foot. That was amazing. It broke all the records.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I had no idea. I was just there coming here.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, grabbing some coffee.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about kind of growing your family like around this area.
Right.
And how has that experience been? And also a little bit more about your heritage and
Right.
how does this area maybe help, nurture your family?
Okay. First, I want to go back to say that even though I'm ethnic Chinese, I was actually born in Malaysia.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And Malaysia also has a very multiracial, multinational kind of history. So I grew up enjoying different kinds of cuisines and speak different languages. So when I came to Atlanta and the first time I went to Beaufort Highway, I said, wow, this is like home, right? And I like spicy food. I found out that Beaufort Highway has actually even more different kinds of cuisine compared to Malaysia when I grew up. It has Vietnamese, Chinese, Korean, Mexican. It also has barbecue, and then there's further down a little bit. There's this Cuban restaurant, I think called Havana, and then there are some huge farmers market too on Beaufort Highway, and Japanese as well. So it was very interesting. One thing that I still remember very well, it's unfortunately it's not there now, is that on Peachtree Industrial Boulevard, I think today it's called Peachtree Parkway, in Chambly, there was a farmer's market, but it was a wet market, and it was very busy. I think one time it was owned by a couple of Indian owners. So I went there and I could buy anything I wanted, any kind of vegetables, spices, and all kinds of seafood and so forth. That was very exciting. Yes. My family didn't take much time to adjust to the move. Back then in the 1980s, it was quite different living in California, LA versus Atlanta. We're talking about 30 some years ago. And as a matter of fact, before I moved over, I was so naive that I couldn't name a second city in Georgia. So that tells you how much I knew about Georgia. But Atlanta obviously has always been a big city and a very nice city. it's my home now after 30 some years, and there's nowhere else I want to go to. It's a big city. It has everything I need here. The busiest airport in the world. My two kids came here, moved with the family, and they went to the local public schools, and after that they went out of state to colleges and university and graduate school. So we had no problem adjusting to Atlanta. We like all the trees, greeneries that we saw, and still today it's still very green. So Beaufort Highway back then has become like our weekend outing. To go and eat lunch and then buy stuff and then come back again sometimes. Okay, go back for dessert. So it's a very nice thing to have when you move to a new city, to find all these wonderful things that you always like. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, tell me a little more about growing as a Chinese person in Malaysia. Like, is it like, is that a normal, I guess, like path of immigration for a lot of Chinese? How?
My father went to Thailand and Malaysia when he was very young. He grew up in China, outside of Shanghai, and he liked to travel. So he was a little bit adventurous back then, and he and my grand uncle travel to go to Thailand and Malaysia, and I don't know for how long. And then they went back to China. They liked it so much, I guess, that they decided to make another trip, the second trip, and spend more time. And then they were caught in a situation that they couldn't go back to China back then because it was the Japanese war, Japanese occupation. And after spending a few years in Malaysia, he met my mom, got married, and you know the rest of the story. So, I have 4 other brothers, no girls in our family. So we grew up, and we like outdoor living, and spend a lot of time outdoor. Malaysia is a tropical country, so it's always hot every day, and you get sunshine every day as well. So we enjoy the beach, and we enjoy eating out and stuff like that. Now, the interesting thing about Malaysia, especially my hometown in Penang, is that when I grew up, my right hand next door neighbor was Indian, and then my left hand next door neighbor was Malay. So being neighbors, we played together, we knew each other, and we spoke different languages, and that's the way, I thought that, that's the way the world is, that we have different races, different languages, different cultures, and we enjoy each other, and I treasure that kind of diversity because that helps me to learn more about other people, how to get along with other people, and try to see the benefits, some of the good things about other culture. I'm ethnic Chinese. Frankly speaking, I don't think that I like everything about Chinese. There are some certain things that are great, and certain things I think that need to be changed because the world changes. So living in Atlanta, especially after 1996, when it became more international, and Beaufort Highway was actually very enlightening for me. That I came to appreciate other people's culture, and I came to appreciate the food and the fashion, the music, and the values of other culture as well. And it's always very interesting. I like to travel. I travel the whole world, and I wish I had more time. There's always so many countries, so many cities you want to see. It's just not enough time, you know. So, so in a sense, that Beaufort Highway is a little United Nations.
Yeah, it really is.
Yes.
It really is. You get to try out so many different things.
Yeah, somebody say that on Beaufort Highway corridor there are probably about 50 to 100 different languages being spoken. That's amazing.
Yeah, I heard that it's one of the only cities where in like one shopping center you'll see different nationalities next
Right.
to each other
Mhm.
versus like you mentioned a Chinatown,
Right.
which is mostly Chinese immigrants.
Right.
Here everybody's together.
Yes.
It's very
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah. Even though in Chinatown, I always say, when I have an opportunity, Chinese New Year Festival, Mooncake Festival, I always tell people, Chinatown is not just for Chinese people. We like everybody to come here to understand our culture, to sample our food, and we get to know you, and we are friendly people. Even among the Asians, it's not just Chinese. First you have Chinese from Hong Kong, you have Chinese from Malaysia, like me, you have Chinese from Taiwan, and of course now by the number is Chinese from mainland China, right? And then, but you also have people from many of them Chinese from Thailand, from Laos, from Cambodia, from Indonesia, Philippines, and other countries, Burma or Myanmar. It's very interesting. Today, of course, I recently moved to Alpharetta near Cumming, and it's the IT corridor, and many of my neighbors are Indians, Asian Indians, and I think in terms of ethnic group, the Indian population it's probably the largest in Metro Atlanta. The last I heard was like 350,000 people.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So did you live in like in Chambly, Doraville area at some point? Where around the city did you live this throughout?
I have never actually lived in Chambly. My office is in Chambly, okay, and I live in Dunwoody, Sandy Springs, and then for a short while I live in Buckhead, and then I moved back to Sandy Springs. Now I actually live in Alpharetta.
Okay.
Yes.
And tell me if you have like a particular memory. You mentioned the farmers market, which is great. Do you have like a particular memory that really stands out from working in this area, and just kind of working with people in this area, like you
Right.
mentioned, from different cultures?
Because Chinatown was developed by two Chinese nationals, Chinese American who came from Taiwan. So originally, Chinatown's tenants, I think most of them were Taiwanese, and then some of them were, I think, from Hong Kong. So I got to know the Taiwanese people more because of my affiliation with Chinatown. The Taiwanese tenants that I have and had at that time were very hardworking. Okay. My tenants are all very hardworking. Unlike some big mainstream shopping mall like Lenox or Phipps Plaza, Many of them just another location of a national company or international company. In small ethnic shopping center, you'll find that the 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 mom and pop tenants actually their living depends on their business, so their livelihood is all there. They work very hard and to make a living, and then they send their kids to college and things like this. So most of my tenants stay in business for a long time. Until maybe in the last 5 years, I noticed that there were more like turnover for a variety of different reasons. As I mentioned before, that Chinatown started in 1988. Back then, many of the original tenants, a couple of them are still there anyway, were maybe in the middle age, very enterprising, but 30 years later, they want to retire, okay? And the kids start their own family already. Many people prefer to go back and become a grandparent, take care of the grandkids, or just to enjoy their retirement. So another reason is because in the last 10 years, we saw a big influx of mainland Chinese people. They want to start their own business as well. And so they bought some of the tenants' businesses and start their own business. The mainland Chinese are more, they are very hardworking, but they are more of a risk taker. And they are usually not as persistent and patient as the other tenants that I had before. So they buy over a business, they work hard, they build up the business and the volume, and then they think it's time to sell. It's a very different concept. Not everybody is the same, obviously, but I do see that as a pattern. Sometimes they also tend to be more mobile in the sense, okay, this is Atlanta, let me try it for a couple of years. If I like it, I stay longer. If I don't like it, I go to New York, I go to Texas, I go to Florida, I go to California. So they are sort of more mobile and itinerant, and they just want to try different things. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some things that, a lot of people think beef fry is just food, but what are some things people get wrong or maybe assume about Buford Highway?
Mm-hmm.
Like perhaps it's not just food. Like there are more things here.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Beaufort Highway also offers a lot of different merchandises that you cannot get anywhere else. Many of these products are brought in from the the vendors' home countries, and I remember that on Beaufort Highway there was a big, I think, Hispanic mall. That they sell. Well, there are actually two. One is Fiesta, I think, Plaza. Another one was like sort of like farmers market, but it was more retail, and they sell a lot of things that you cannot get anywhere else, and so it was sort of unique in that sense, and the price was very reasonable, very cheap price compared to if you have to go try to buy it even online or on eBay. Um, Another thing too is that Beaufort Highway sometimes they have different festivals, different kinds of festivals. Very Some of them are international, others are very ethnic, and they're all very lots of fun. The attendance the usually is very strong. Okay, that shows you that Beaufort Highway itself is a big attraction. I mean, people go to Beaufort Highway just don't go one place. It's a destination. You go there, you want to spend half a day or the whole day there. doing different things you like, and that's great.
Yeah. Do you remember going to a particular festival that you really liked?
When my kids were young, we went to this festival, I think at Fiesta. That was more like a carnival. That was great. That was great. It's different games and also different kinds of foods, F&B. They were all very interesting. Yeah, busy.
I think they still have it.
Yeah,
Like,
they still have
set
it.
up in the parking lot.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
And so, what are some things that somebody who's never been to Buford Highway, like, I think it's hard for a lot of people to imagine that there's this road in Atlanta that has all of this culture within it and this big community.
Right.
If you were to describe Buford Highway in one of your many travels, what would you say?
I think Beaufort Highway is unique. That anybody who lives in Atlanta should go to Beaufort Highway to try, have an experience. And I also feel like Atlanta being such a big convention city, all the conventioners, all the tourists should go to Beaufort Highway as well to have that experience. I do not know of another city in the US that has a similar corridor like Beaufort Highway, that is so diverse culture and cuisines and things like this. Um, and I have also noticed the Beaufort Highway, a lot of enhancement has been made for safety reasons. Lighting is it's a lot brighter, and then the what do you call that medians it's been beautified. There are flower pots and trees and so forth. Um, so I think a lot of good changes been made. Um, and I like what Marion is doing. We love Bill High and trying to promote Beaufort Highway as an attraction, as a destination point. I mean, the more business Beaufort Highway gets, the most of them, as you know, are mom and pop, and the better it would be. Um, the so far, I don't have any bad experience in Beaufort Highway. Even though I heard some people feel like, hey, always ask me, is it safe? I think it's safe, right? And um, and as far as food is concerned, different people have different taste buds, and I mean, I'm more adventurous. I try different kinds of food. I enjoy when I travel. I want to try local food. Okay, that's what the whole thing about travel is like. I don't want to go there, go to McDonald's, and unfortunately, some people just don't want to get away from their comfort zone. I think they are missing a lot. Um, so if somebody wants to go to like Vietnam or Cambodia, or China, I think they should go to Beaufort Highway first. And I have a little bit of experience before you go to Asia. That helps, you know, and we have this saying in the U.S. that the food is excellent, but it's a hole in the wall. Okay. Well, fortunately, it's usually true. You don't need to go to a fancy restaurant to have good food and pay a lot of money.
So true.
Yeah. Some of my best restaurants on Beaufort Highway are Penang, which is Malaysian food. Also, Cam Grill, Beaufort Highway, and Claremont. It's French Vietnamese. And next to it is Lee's Bakery, which is excellent as well. And then There is a Chinese dumpling place called North China Eatery. It's excellent.
Soup dumplings.
Yes, yes, and it's very healthy too. You know, some of the foods I tried on Beaufort Highway, including Havana, and I like Cuban sandwiches. You know, there's one Colombian food restaurant. It's on Beaufort Highway and 285, but it's a little bit up the hill a little bit.
Oh, La Casona?
Yes, you tried that before? It's excellent. The portion is huge though.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, but the food is excellent. Actually, yesterday I had lunch there.
Oh, that's my
Yeah.
mom's favorite place.
Is that right?
Yes.
It's excellent. And they are so friendly. They help you to order in case if you go there the first time. So yesterday I had chicken soup, which was one of my
Very
favorite,
good.
and then I had a steak made medium. It comes with all kinds of stuff. That's actually it's just that too bad I couldn't finish it. Huge portion.
That is true.
Yeah.
It's very, very, but you also have to order a lot.
Yes.
And then just try what you can.
That's right. That's right.
So as a developer, you have a very unique perspective on like design, and you were talking about safety and things like that. Like, what
Right.
are some things that you hope, like, as Buford Highway grows, like maybe they can incorporate, or maybe things that they need more of, things that they don't need, things like that.
Well, there are a lot of things I think should be done on Beaufort Highway, but as you know, Beaufort Highway land has become very expensive. I would like to see someone come in and assemble maybe 10 acres, do a mixed use development with emphasis is on retail and with lots of restaurants, F&B, and then some shops that sells international products. But I also want to see that there are some playgrounds for kids. There are some language like schools, dancing like ballroom dancing. So, you know, I always like to learn how to dance. I never really dare to try. I know the Latinos are very good in dancing. It's incredible. Their body is so soft, you know. So
You
makes
learn how to salsa.
yeah. That's great. I mean, that's cultural exchange, okay. And I like to see more different countries' fashions being sold, okay. And maybe every year we have something like Miss Beaufort Highway.
Ooh.
Yeah, and people will have to feature their own national costumes, and it's open to everybody, including the mainstream Caucasians. That would be very interesting. You know, we need to do something, one big event annually to have a big draw and advertise heavily in the southeastern United States. And then every season there should be some sort of an event of different cultures or significance. Another thing I would like to see on Beaufort Highway, that reminds me of the Asian night market. But you will probably know better that in Barcelona, there's this thing called La Ramba.
La Ramba.
Okay? And it's so fascinating. They shut down the streets and the restaurant extend to the outside seating fiasco or whatever you call it.
Pedestrian only.
Yes. And it's mainly food, but there are also flowers. There are also other things that complements the F&B. I think Atlanta needs this because I'm thinking about the tourists and the conventions. They come here, and what I have heard this, I don't know whether it's still true or not, that the first year conventioner comes to Atlanta, very excited, bring the wife, you know, and after the convention or at night they go out, different restaurants, go shopping a little bit. But frankly speaking, Atlanta is not one of the top tourist attraction in in the U.S. Let's be frank about it. I mean, we have Stone Mountain, we have different places, but it's not like San Francisco, it's not like New York City or Los Angeles. And that's okay. But if we have this Beaufort Highway, we can have a La Ramba, right? And people will go there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just like we have MARTA and we have easy transportation, and we should have more festival on Beaufort Highway. I know parking is a problem. I know that
That's why you
sometimes
take Marta.
yeah, sometimes I think in the U.S. whether it's City of Chambly or DeKalb County, I'm not saying anything bad. I think sometimes when you have festival like this, you need to make the permitting a little bit easier. It's not like okay, we don't allow outside cooking. Come on, the rest of the world they cook outside, and you only do it once,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And be flexible.
Yeah. As long as you follow your thing, it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
It's fine.
yeah.
So tell me just like one last question, unless there's anything else you want to share about your past year. Um, what's next for like your businesses and you as it relates to this area, and like what are your goals and plans for?
Well, I think the Marion didn't tell you I'm retired. I retired last year.
Mm-hmm.
I
I know
turned
you're still very active.
Yeah, I turned 70 last year, and then we had a big discussion in the family that you need to spend more time in the family, and you need more space, and you can't keep on working. So there are pros and cons. So I work out the best solution with my company is that first, I found my successor, and he's running the business now. He's doing very well. Second thing is that because I have been with the company for more than 30 years, and I'm physically still healthy, so I don't mind going back to the office like part time, couple of hours, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. There are people who kind of get used to calling me and put my name kind of with the company and things like this, and it's kind of hard to change. And I don't mind doing that at all. I still enjoy doing business. Um, we talk about Chambly. The time has come to Chambly. Buckhead is expensive. Even Brookhaven is very expensive. So finally, it has come to Chambly. Chambly has seen a lot of development and redevelopment in the last 2 3 years, and it will continue to have new development. Um, One of the projects that I would like to see that actually being developed in the next 2 or 3 years is in International Village, which is right behind Chinatown, and it's very close to PDK Airport.
That's an old project, right?
Yes, but it was never taken off because of the '07 financial crisis. So I heard that there's a company coming in and have this piece of property under contract, and they want to do a mixed use development. So I'm 100% supporting them, and hopefully we can do something together too. Even though it may be just like we can only do the Chinatown or the Asian component of International Village. I think that will be a huge draw, and
Will it connect to the mall, or is it like?
it's adjoining.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be great. Also, I would like to see that maybe in the new development there will be some sort of a cultural center, activity center, and combining like a church as well. Okay, it can be any denomination. Um, One of the things I feel is that people associate churches or religious institution with comfort and safety. Okay, you can go to like, let's say this is a huge mixed use development. People can go to the church and kids can go to the playground, activity center, and then you can have lunch together, and then the kids will go off and play again, or and the grandparents maybe go back to the church or Sunday school, and then you spend the whole day around that area. That's such a nice family outing, you know. That would be nice. Okay. Um, Another thing I would like to see is an international trade center where different countries can display and showcase their products. So that promotes international trade too, and that would be nice. Yeah.
So, if the international village comes about and they build it, how do you hope they kind of connect to the rest of the community that's already here, since it's a new thing?
I think it's the connection is already there. The 30 acres of international village land is in Chambly. Uh, on the one side, let me see, the northeasterly side, I think, is very close to Beaufort Highway, it's walking distance. On Chambly Tucker, which would be the southern part, it's next to the airport. So that means you can draw the traffic from CDC as well as IRS. You know, thousands of people work there. You know, so they can go to International Beaufort Highway and Chinatown for lunch, and then for people who have business entertainment or celebration this day, they can go to any one of these restaurants for for dinner. When they have friends from out of town, they can bring them over. That would be nice. I think the international village concept is a very good one because you include everybody, and you want everybody to be in there and feel that they are part of it. And that would be the best thing ever happen in Atlanta as well as Beaufort. Well, Beaufort Highway has already gotten that kind of an atmosphere as well as that kind of diverse culture that you don't have to recreate and put everybody together because they're already there. And then Chambly is also very close to Buckhead, so it's easy for driving or take the MARTA, just one or two stops at Perimeter Center as well. So that will be, if that happens, I'll be very, very happy.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of it.
Yes.
Unless there's anything else you would like to tell me about your life, this is all I got.
I think that's it.
That's it?
I enjoy speaking with you, and it's nice that we can share all these thoughts together.
Yeah.